He said, "This is why I haven't married you yet. My boyfriend, 25M, and I, 27F, are coming up on our 2-year anniversary in July. Yesterday was his 25th birthday and I wanted to do something nice for him, so I took him out for a very expensive dinner. Neither one of us had ever been to a place so expensive, $550 with tip, and I knew what I was getting into when I made the reservation. I didn't mind the cost because I had also always wanted to go somewhere expensive and thought his birthday would be a great excuse to try it out. Halfway through our dinner the topic of our future came up. I said something along the lines of, I hope one day when we graduate college we can afford to eat at a place like this more often. We have been talking about moving to California in a year to go to college. He hasn't always been 100% about the idea, but I am certain that's where I want to go. He started saying that he wasn't sure if California was where he wanted to go. That he didn't know where he would want to go, but he wasn't really feeling California and that he was willing to go somewhere else to ensure he had the future he wanted, even if that meant leaving me behind. It was a really strange thing to say during a $600 dinner when everything was going well. I told him I didn't think I would be willing to go anywhere else either and that I would be working on my doctorate's degree and that with him working on his bachelor's degree he would be able to earn that anywhere, in any state, but my doctor degree I needed to be pickier with where I chose to go. Plus we originally chose CA because we are both getting out of the military and CA has one of the highest paying BA in the country. After I said this he told me, and this is why I haven't married you yet. We've talked about marriage a few times in our 2-year relationship and he has always been very direct that he does not have any desire to get married. He's very against it in general and every time we have talked about it he has been sure to show how he feels about the topic, so we hardly ever bring it up. Strangely enough though, the last few months he has brought it up quite a bit, saying stuff like, I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you, and maybe I will marry you after all, etc. It was really strange for him to say something like that halfway through our dinner. And afterward he said he only said it because he felt like I was telling him that it was more important for me to get my degree than it was to get his, and that it felt like I was comparing myself to him because I'm getting my doctor degree and he's just getting a bachelor's. I know they say that men know if they want to marry a woman in the first few years, but what do I make of this situation? I don't really care about getting married, especially not any time in the next couple of years, but with the statement he made, what should I make of it? Maybe I will marry you after all. Skull, he's trying to hold it over your head and that's gross. I'm thinking you should be focusing on the part where he said that he's willing to leave you behind to pursue his undergraduate. He doesn't really care if CA is the best choice for you, he might go somewhere else. It may be that he doesn't like that he's so far behind you in education and he seems to not like the idea of planning his life around your best interests. Even though you're exactly right about where you get your PhD mattering more than his undergrad. I'm guessing he wants to run the show, he wants you to have to follow him, otherwise he's more than happy to leave you behind. I think you should sit down and discuss this with him. Have an open conversation and lay it out that you aren't comparing yourself to him. That you both had previously talked about moving to California and that you'd like to be in the loop when he changes his mind, plans. It sounds like he feels insecure about your education compared to his? I understand that grad degrees are far more selective than undergrad, but it's possible he's feeling resentful about how future plans of moving only revolve around where you want to go to school. It's his future too. Sounds like you are both pretty self-absorbed and unwilling to compromise for each other. While it's a bit offside for him to say he would be willing to move on without you, I get the impression you've implied a similar sentiment about the move to California. He probably feels like you're making all the calls and expecting him to follow your choice regardless of his own wishes. He has always been very direct that he does not have any desire to get married. If you want to get married eventually and he's against marriage, and then that's already a fundamental incompatibility. What exactly is your end game here? Wait and hope that he eventually changes his mind? His ego is getting the better of him, he doesn't know how to deal with a strong successful woman. And he's comparing himself to you and worried you will outshine him, thus emasculate him, if that makes sense. You need to sit down and have a real conversation with him. Edit. Both about how this is a united front and about moving. Here's your translation. I love you. But I don't care much your needs. I will maybe marry if your lifestyle suits my needs, but I won't return the favor. My boyfriend friends told me to get over being ace and he agreed and IDK what to do. Last night my 25 female boyfriend, 26, had a few of his guy friends, 20s 30s, over for beers and some video games. The topic of them having sex with their girlfriends' wives came up a few beers in. My room is connected to the gaming room by a thin wall. My boyfriend told them we haven't had sex because he has said he wants to wait until marriage, but even after he doesn't know how much he'll be getting, because I'm asexual. That comment kinda hurt me, but he says shit he doesn't really mean when he has alcohol, so I just brushed it off. An hour later I went to the kitchen to get my water bottle that was on the counter when one of his friends stopped me and asked, "When are you going to get over this being ace bullshit and give boyfriend's name some puss?" All of the boys laughed at that and I gave a little chuckle thinking he was kidding, but he just kept looking at me and nodding his head like, "Are you going to answer?" I gave an awkward chuckle and said, "I'm not. You don't get over being ace just like you don't get over being gay or being lesbian." Another friend who had obviously had a lot more drinks than the others replied, "Yeah, but lesbians are hot. Being ace just means you don't want to put out." My boyfriend just kinda nodded his head in agreement after a lot of back and forth of me trying to explain what asexual meant and how you can't just stop being ace. My boyfriend downed the rest of his beer and said, looking straight at me, "Well, you need to get over it because I don't want to be a 40-year-older virgin. You can't have kids, so what are you worried for?" I snapped and screamed that I'm not going to get over being ace. I will never get over being ace, and he will have to get over that I don't find people sexually attractive and can live without having sex, and left to stay with my sister. He has been calling all morning asking why I left and saying that it's not a big deal because I know how he is with alcohol and holding what he and his friends said to them wasn't fair. I don't know what to do. You two are fundamentally incompatible. He seems to believe that you're just going to magically not be you one day. The fact alone that his friends disrespected you and he went along with it should be enough for you to walk away. But your incompatibility really is a huge issue, so I'm not really sure why you're forcing this. Alcohol isn't an excuse. He's telling you how he feels. With that information, you have a decision to make. Good luck. Drinking does not give you a pass to be an asshole, and he's using it as an excuse. He's a prick, his friends are pricks, and that's not going to change. You guys aren't compatible, that's the long and short of it. Stressing out over who's being an asshole is missing the forest for the trees, because the two of you will always be in a situation where either his needs are not being met, or your bodily autonomy isn't being respected. That will be a constant source of friction, resentment, and conflict, and will lead to blow-ups like this on a semi-regular basis. As an aside, if his friends are this comfy talking like this to you, they're prob saying much worse behind your back. So you've been together how long? Because it sounds like you are just not compatible. Keep staying with your sister and end things with your BF. He clearly thinks he's going to get sex once married. It's incredibly unfair of you to be dating people who aren't ace. Most won't truly accept or understand what they are giving up by dating you. It sucks, but you need to find a like-minded soul. Your boyfriend and his friends are assholes. It's like when a girl is bisexual and they suddenly think we want to have threesomes. We don't. Some of us might. But that's not the point. Our sexuality is not for their pleasure. Fuck this guy and fuck his friends. Figuratively. Ditch this loser. Or, you can have a conversation with him about how this made you feel. One-on-one. And if he doesn't get it and this comes up again, you can either re-establish the boundary or dump him. I vote just dumping him. This person claiming to be asexual can't spell asexual, and people think this is real. You think people who actually are ace haven't ever seen the word before? Lol. You are leading him on. You should tell him the truth. That you are repulsed by the idea of sex, and after marriage he will get an unwilling partner and eventually a dead bedroom. This is on you because your sexual preference is none. That is not how most people feel. That is your right and choice to be that way, but is not fair to your BF. Your choice is a lonely one unless you find someone else who doesn't like sex but enjoys your companionship. You should do this immediately. Girlfriend is constantly mad at me because I'm not woke enough. My girlfriend is a 23F and she always gets mad at me if I don't know much about certain societal issues or if I don't match her wokeness. She always says that it's cowardly to not choose sides in a social debate and judges me if I care about an issue but don't do anything to change it. Like the other day we were taking about a book where the author wrote a misogynistic sentence. While I clearly agreed that it was misogynistic, she got mad at me for not questioning the opinion or reflecting about it and judged me for saying I want to continue to read the book because it was entertaining. That sentence was clearly wrong, but I found everything else entertaining, and when I asked her if reading the book would make me a misogynist, she didn't respond. According to her, if I care about an issue but if I don't go out of my to do anything to change it, then it means I don't care about the issue. Ever since we've been dating I've tried to be as politically correct while talking to her, but I get annoyed when the little things that I do are extrapolated into extremes. A lot of times I just let things go because of the fear of being cancelled by her if I say anything remotely wrong. I love my girlfriend to death and she's literally the nicest person I've been with. She's very supportive and caring and is honestly a great woman. I have no problem with her being woke and having strong feelings about societal issues, but when she projects those issues on me and wants me to match her wokeness or keep thinking about these issues a lot, that's when I get annoyed. Is there anything I can do to improve this situation? Tell your girlfriend to look up performative wokeness, and then tell her to shut up. It's perfectly fine to be passionate about societal, political problems, but to force others to give a shit when no one is obligated to is a red flag. Some people don't care what's happening in the world, and that's okay. So her life is fueled by virtue signaling and forcing those around her to fuel their lives with it as well? Yeah, I'd leave ASAP. You know what's truly cowardly? Forcing others to pick a side and completely cut off anyone or anything that offends them and isn't up to their woke standard. If you can't talk freely without walking on eggshells around her, she's not the one. I dealt with something very similar last year. It doesn't get better. These types of people almost never change. It sounds like you two just have different values and may not be all that compatible. If you two are so busy being woke, when do you actually live your life? Any chance of enjoying anything? Can't laugh at any jokes, dissect everything to death, police other people's world views, be outraged by everything you don't agree with? Are you also having PC sex? God, it's sickening. She's a disaster. Dump her and enjoy your life. Just as much as she wants you to have a strong opinion on misogyny, she has to understand it's not your issue. She sounds like an annoying bee, honestly. Like she lives to make you feel insignificant. I would talk to her about how it's not your thing to make everything a social ethical dilemma, etc. If she doesn't want to back off the issues, then dump her. You can think you're in love with someone and be completely incompatible. You know, I think you're right. You deserve a man who is as woke as you and as passionate as you. So, bye. I'm a lefty and all, but there are people who turn it into a competitive sport and are very performative and do stuff like this more for accolades from other people than because they really care. She is not forcing you to pick a side. She is forcing you to pick her side. And that is wrong. I would not be able to stay in that kind of relationship. I, 28M. Wanna move, my wife, 28F. Doesn't, and I hate her a little bit right now. We live in the house that she grew up in. After all her siblings moved out, she stayed there and cared for her parents until they both died. We got married last year and she agreed that we would only live here until we found a house that we liked in another county, one that doesn't feel like we live in the state penitentiary. I have tried empathy and gentle reasoning about why I don't want to live here anymore. We have a 1-year-old son and I just don't understand how this wasn't the breaking point for her. The short explanation is that I was held up at a traffic light about 10 minutes from home. Because of the gun, I complied with everything. Got on the ground. They stole my car and everything of value on my person, my phone and my father's watch. My backpack was in the car and so they stole my personal laptop and an iPad as well. After we called the police, they put out a bulletin for the car. We've also called our insurance company. My father's watch is likely just gone though. As soon as they left I told her we are moving to an apartment for all I care. We got into a fight about it and she asked why I didn't do anything to stop him from stealing our car. What was I supposed to do with a gun in my face? She told me to stop because the baby was asleep. You do realize that we are lucky it was just me this time. What if he had followed me here? Then what? I'm more furious about my dad's watch than anything else. Everything else can be replaced. I've been sleeping on the couch for this entire week because I'm so mad that she tried to make this my fault. I've been saying that we need to move. I don't want a divorce. I'm just really angry. I need to figure out how to convince her that we currently live in hell and that we need to move. Check local pawn shops in a 25 to 50 mile radius. Your father's watch may have been pawned recently and there could be a name tied to it too. We did this with my grandma's wedding ring when a guy robbed her. Unfortunately had to foot $300 for it, but still we got it back. She asked why I didn't do anything to stop him from stealing our car. In addition to being robbed at gunpoint, your wife wants to ensure you feel shame as well. Her lack of empathy should tell you everything you need to know about continuing your relationship with her. You're assaulted and her response is, "How could you let that happen? What else is going on with her?" It's hard to believe that a spouse would be so awful as a matter of course. Sounds like your area is really unsafe and you need to insist on a move. Tell her the decision is no longer being held up for both of you. You and your child need to move for safety. You want her to come with you. She is being ridiculous by not putting your family first. Don't force her to sell the house if she can't bring herself to do it. I normally discourage divorce, but honestly your wife is mental. I don't even know what else to say other than that. I would be losing my mind if my husband came home and told me he had been robbed. I'd probably insist he go to the hospital. I'm so sorry about your father's watch. That is horrible. Your wife is awful. Blames you for having a gun pointed to you. Thank God your life was spared. Honestly, imagine you saying that to her. She wouldn't like it. I feel like you're both traumatized here. To lose both of your parents by 28 is really rare and really awful. To have to care for them as they died as well, I can't even imagine. You've been traumatized by the carjacking, which sounds horrific but honestly could have happened in any neighborhood in any city. It seems very possible that she is so attached to that house because it feels like if she leaves, her parents will really be gone. And you're so averse to that house because of your own trauma. You really need a therapist here to work through what is the actual next best step for your family. We all have to do things we don't want to do, and yours is divorce. If your wife won't budge after you got held up by gunpoint, losing your father's watch and a whole bunch of expensive shit, she's never moving. What other choice do you have? What if your baby was in the car with you? And she was cold-blooded about how you almost freaking died. Your wife loved that house and neighborhood more than you. Get an apartment. See if she follows. If not, filed.